I don't know if you could even hear that music. I hope you could. But welcome everybody to the Morning Night Live. I am so happy to have a guest, but so I want to make sure that we get the most out of this today. So please share the stream. There's a whole bunch of people here I see already, and I am looking forward to our guest. But before I do that, just some things. Make sure that everyone in the chat, if you have questions at the end of the show, we'll give you some time to do that. And if you want to, well, during the show, there will be, if you do happen to do Streamlabs and I don't notice it right away, it's because I'm going to be doing them at specific times during the show. So I won't necessarily immediately read Streamlabs or super chats like I do on the regular show, because I want to make sure that we get everything we can from our guest and all the knowledge and wisdom that she will be bringing today, which is definitely going to happen. So that's my intro speech for the day. And if I can figure out how to use StreamYards, I will have Johnny play the intro. Johnny, do your work. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog Studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America,
It's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, P. Dog Night.
Yet, although you know how I am. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as P Dog Night on the internet. Welcome back to the P Dog Night channel on this Friday. Did I say Friday? Did I say It's Funky Friday. Yes. And we have an amazing show for you today. And we'll get into that in a minute. We have our guest, Gabrielle Clark. I finally said her name correctly. That music's too loud. And we're going to be talking about, those crazy parents who've been going to school board meetings and the Attorney General of the United States of America wants to call them potential terrorists or whatever. Well, we have one with us today, but she's not a terrorist. She knows that they are doing wrong in our schools, and she is trying to find ways to fix that and teaching people how to deal with this in their own jurisdiction. So we'll talk about that as we do, and then you'll get a chance to ask some questions too at the end. So let me real quick say good morning to everyone in the chat, and then we're going to get it started. So first in the chat today, it's Black Hebrew Israelite.
That's right.
Oh, did that work? I don't know. I got to turn. Something happened here, and everything's so quiet. Okay, there's the bell. And also, good morning to Shady Grid, Advocate Stably. All you need. Welcome back, sir. Also, Sam Chicago, Mike down in Wasteland. What's her name? Tyre has a new name, Bob J. Boblin, CEO and president of FTG Farms. That's where the Morning Night Live we go to the Fox Farms Farmer Market, and FTG Farms is our favorite vendor there. Also, good morning to Rotten Corpse, Mike Savage, Blarg, Attack Alpaca. Who else is here? Somnambule Nation and FX and Renee Mayette, and people are slowly going in. Oh, and the most wonderful, I shouldn't say she is my most wonderful daughter and mother of my grandchild. Alyssa P's in the house, so that's good news. All right, real quick, just to run through on some of the things that are trending in the news that you're going to be hearing about today before we bring our guest on. And so I'm looking at the if there's anything here I care about, because usually there's not. The January 6th hearings are continuing to go. Yes, the Dog and Pony show with Ms. Cheney and what's the other guy's name? Anyway, they're chairing that committee where everything that they have a production. They have a production where they're telling you what happened on January 6th, but there's not really a whole lot of opposition in the production. So I don't know if they really got anything, because I still don't know who Ray Epps is or why they haven't talked to him. But that's a whole nother story. So that's trending. In fact, let me put this on the screen because I forgot to do this anyway. See, this is a good time to do this. Share screen and that one. There we go. And let's see if I can do that. No, I didn't do that right. What the hell did I do? All right, there we go. And let's see, January 6th. So Josh Hawley, apparently some people, they played a video of Josh Hawley sprinting for the Capitol on January 6th, just hours after his infamous fist raise photo. Well, I don't think he wanted to be part of the mob. Don't care. Don't know why Manson's trending. Is there anything on here that I know about? 43-year-old Army veteran David Jacobinus has been charged with attempted assault for apparently trying to stab U.S. Representative Lee Zeldin, the GOP candidate for New York governor, at an upstate meeting. You're going to be hearing about that today. Yeah, that was not good. I don't know where the security was for that one. I don't know why Mary Magdalene's trending. Is there anything else that Grace Jones is trending? Hold up. Give me a second. Okay. Why is Grace Jones trending? She must have done something. Y'all know who Grace Jones is. I know. See, I'm old. Well, most people in my audience are old enough to know who Grace Jones is. Oh, apparently Beyonce's Renaissance includes collaborations with Beam, Grace Jones, and Thames. Now, I have no idea who Beam or Thames are, but I do know who Grace Jones is. And I don't know why is that she's trending. Okay, don't care. All right, last thing. Let's see. Is there anything else on here? You know what? I can't even think straight because I got Gabs in the waiting room. So I'm not. There's nothing on here important. Snap posted revenue that missed analyst estimates, citing major slowdown in advertising industry that is likely to affect technologies. I don't know who Snap is. Is that Snapchat? Apparently their earnings are down. Okay, whatever. Okay, enough of this mess. This is not even important because I have someone in the green room that I must bring in. And oh, there you are. You're on the screen. And she's waiting right there so patiently. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our guest, Gabrielle Clark. Hello, Gabrielle. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And if first, let me show. I maybe you don't know in the chat who Gabrielle Clark is. I want to show you just a short video that that encapsulates the power of this woman. And I just let me make sure I do this real quick. Do it right. Hopefully I will do this correctly. Yes, here we go. All right. So here's the illustrious Gabrielle Clark talking to, I believe, the Houston School District Board of something, the Houston Independent School District Board meetings. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Gabrielle Clark. I filed the first federal lawsuit against woke indoctrination in America. My daughter goes here now, and I will not tolerate any kind of indoctrination of my daughter at all, period. 3 of those people that Jackie talked about, I found lawyers for this morning. We're done with that. We're done with our children being groomed. We're done with having to deal with boys and girls' bathrooms. We're done with all of that nonsense. Everywhere around this country, people are sick and tired of listening to all of this yackity smackity about equity and inclusion and all of this nonsense, when we really need to be talking about reading and writing and math. We're done with that. Y'all need to get your budget right. Get this school district right, because we are sick of it. All over the country, we are sick of it. Parents are done with this nonsense.
All right. So that is what we're here to talk about. So Gabrielle is an activist. And when I say activist, I don't mean just someone who sits and goes to fancy cocktail parties raising funds for, the whales and some shit. The truth here is she is actually out teaching people how to fight back on some of the things that we're going to talk about today. Critical race theories, what is social emotional learning, or also known as SEL. And I had written an introduction. Let me just do my introduction here before I go, Gabs. So my guest today is Gabrielle Clark. Gabs, as we call her, is one of those dangerous parents who fight indoctrination in the K through 12 education. Both of her school-age children were affected by indoctrination in different ways. One was harmed by critical race theory, or CRT. One was harmed by social emotional learning, also known as SEL. She decided to fight back. Her fight started with CRT indoctrination. Her son was being discriminated against in his school, and she took action. And she filed the first federal lawsuit against indoctrination in America. While she was raising awareness about CRT, her daughter was socially transitioned into thinking she was a boy. She organized a plan to recapture her daughter from the cult of transgenderism, and she has devoted all of her time and energy into telling other parents how she got her daughter back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Gabrielle Clark. All right, so let's start with your story because, let's start with your son, because you said that he was harmed by critical race theory and was being discriminated against. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first, thank you for having me. I appreciate that. And good morning to your audience. My son was going to a charter school in Las Vegas, and he was asked to list his identities, his race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, disabilities and socioeconomic level, that sort of thing. And he was to attach signifiers to those identities. And they only gave two choices: privileged and oppressed. And because I'm half black and half white, my first husband was black and my second husband was white. My son is three-quarters white. And so by their by their oppression privilege matrix, my son growing up in a Judeo-Christian home, Judeo-Christian values. He's white, male, straight, all of those things. He just had to be privileged. There was no other option. And, that's discriminatory. And he wasn't going to do that. He's not privileged. At the time, we were living in a motel and William was sleeping on a mat on the floor. There's nothing privileged about that life. And just because he was born with these immutable characteristics and he was raised with a certain set of values does not change that. It doesn't make his life any more privileged than his siblings who grow up in the same household, but they just happen to be black. And we tried to get the school to let him opt out of that class. They refused. We tried everything we could to get relief in that area, and they would not relent. So we filed a lawsuit.
How old was your son at the time?
He was a senior. He was a
Senior.
senior in high school.
Senior in high school. So they were trying to say that just because of his appearance, he had some sort of advantage or privilege. I mean, privilege meaning that he didn't have to go through bad things, basically, is when they say privilege.
Right. I mean, his father died when he was a year old. And I had been in a wheelchair for several years. He was having to carry me on his back up and down the stairs. There's nothing privileged about that life. There's nothing privileged about anything that he's ever had to go through. And just because he's, melanated challenged, doesn't mean that he's got some sort of privilege in this country.
Did they say, I mean, so basically this list of things they asked in this questionnaire or whatever, so they were just trying to put together a kind of a privilege hierarchy for each kid?
Yes. And so they were explaining intersectionality and how some of your some of your characteristics, some of your identities are privileged and some of them are oppressed, just based on immutable characteristics or what you believe in. That's wrong. That is, or how much money you have. His father was a lawyer, and his father went to college. He made lots of money, all that stuff. But when his dad died, that was no longer his reality, right? So because his father went to college and he was a lawyer, that makes my son somehow privileged. It's, even though he died long ago, he never even got to meet him. He didn't even know anything about him. He didn't get any kind of privilege from being the son of a lawyer. And so, you can't reduce people to their individual identities and how they intersect and think that that is the measure of a person. It isn't.
And then so they're asking all this personal information. So and so you decided to take action. That was the first time you decided to take action.
Yes.
And so the lawsuit that you filed, what did that entail?
It's a compelled speech lawsuit. They can't force you to say these things. They're protected. When you see the EEOC, when you sign your little EEOC paper at the bottom of the page, it says, we don't discriminate based on race, sex, and all that stuff. That's, that applies. There are some things that your school is compelled it has the authority to compel you to say. They want to know, like testing and stuff like that. But these things are protected. no matter who you are, no matter where you are, if you're talking to any kind of teacher or anything like that, and they ask you pronouns or they ask you to tell them your disabilities or your race, and it's not pertinent to the conversation, it's not pertinent to your education, they don't have the right to do that. So that's why we sued.
Okay. Did they now when they after they gathered all this information, how much did they use it to separate kids? Because I know that's one of the big issues when they start getting into this, this your privilege, and we're going to put this group over here, and we're going to single you out over here. How much did that happen?
It didn't happen because he didn't complete that assignment. You don't have to, you don't have to comply with that sort of request. My son would have never been in a privilege walk because he would not participate. And just asking those questions is against the law. And we said no. We weren't going to allow that. We live in our freedom every day.
Did and so how long ago was this lawsuit? I mean, what's the status of the lawsuit itself?
So we filed our lawsuit in December 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And by April, after some back and forth, after some, really tumultuous months, they decided they better go ahead and relent. And they gave him some relief and allowed him to opt out of that class. They expunged his record, thereby allowing him to graduate. Because that was the thing. They were retaliating against him for not completing this course. So they told him that he wasn't going to be allowed to graduate. And by April, they'd had a change of heart.
So they backed down.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, that's good. So I gotta throw some cheers every once in a while. So and what is your son doing these days? So he's already graduated. He's gone on and doing his thing now, or what's he doing now?
Yes, he's working. He's working. He was going to go to college, but a lot of that got derailed. The damage had already been done. So we amended our complaint and we refiled because now we are seeking damages.
Okay,
It messed up his college opportunities in his schedule, and it threw our family off. Interfering in my parental rights. That's part of the 14th Amendment. We're suing on that. It messed up. It was discriminatory. So that's Title VI and Title IX. Discrimination based on race and sex.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those things. You don't have to comply with your schools when they're breaking the law. You don't have to do that, and they were. So, we refiled and we're waiting for the court.
Did you were there other parents that were in the game, so to speak, at the time with you, or were you just basically the pioneer of on your own trying to figure this out?
Well, it was in fact the first federal lawsuit against woke indoctrination.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the first person to stand up to this and say no. Well, I should say William was. He decided that this wasn't okay. And when we talked about it as a family, we filed the lawsuit because other parents and other children need to understand that they have to live in their freedom. They have to live it every single day. And you have to fight for it sometimes because it's not always guaranteed to you.
Mm.
So that's why we did that.
Well,
it's activated 1 million parents.
Yeah, I was gonna say, after you did this, or did you have any support though, or did he have any support from other students? Did you have anyone that was like, hey, they're right. we need to like get on board with this. But I mean, at the time, because you were new at this and no one else was doing this, no one else said, oh, you can't do that in here. What are you doing?
His friends were very supportive, and we've had teachers come out in support of him. But there were no other students that wanted to make the same claim. You know, unfortunately, in our society, we've been told what to do for so long, and we've been made to believe that the government gives us these freedoms. No, they don't give us these freedoms. We're born with them. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of parents are afraid, but you don't have to be afraid. You can stand up to these people, you can fight back.
Absolutely. And was this going on? Was this during COVID time or just prior to that?
This was during COVID time. So what happened with that was is my daughter was I was listening to some of her classes, and some of the stuff that they were talking about, I was just like, that's not right. And you know, for example, there was an art teacher who was making comparisons between the graffiti from Black Lives Matter and how it relates to modern art. And you know, calling graffiti art in a classroom to me was inappropriate. I
Mhm.
didn't think that that was, you know, I didn't think that we should be glorifying a crime. You know, when you're disgruntled, you don't go and spray paint somebody's car. That is not the appropriate way to express your frustration about society or culture or the
Mhm.
government. You take it up legally if you can, and you change the culture through discourse. And when that happened, I just was shocked to see that they were basically teaching the children that it was okay to break the law. Um, and I didn't think that was appropriate. So I started paying a lot closer attention to what was being taught to my daughter. And once I saw another teacher talk about, and I can't remember exactly the thing she said. I can't remember exactly what she said, but she basically was comparing. Well, she was basically saying, talking about justifying the murder of Black people by the police. And I was just livid. This is a middle schooler, a sixth grader that she was telling this to. And I told her to shut that computer off, and I found her a new school that day. And
Okay.
that was when I went to my son William, who was in the same school, and I asked, what are they teaching you? What are they showing you? And he told me some of the things that were happening. So I looked into his class, and I did not like what I saw.
Hmm. So now let's and I want to transition over to your daughter, no pun intended, because I know the story. So you send your daughter to a different school, not same, but your son stayed there and went ahead and graduated, right? And then
Right.
your daughter, or same school district, whatever. And your daughter went to another school. Tell us the story about your daughter, because this is even I I've heard the story before. This is even more insidious, and, and I I can understand why all of a sudden the fire came out, especially the fire came out early, but then tell us that story.
So while I was fighting critical race theory for my son and traveling the country and talking to parents and trying to activate parents to fight for their rights on the CRT front, my daughter was being socially transitioned into thinking she was a boy through the SEL program. She was seeing a counselor at school. We all of us parents thought that that was a good idea because the pandemic had really caused some distress with our children. So that this was um, we thought that this was an appropriate measure. But what I didn't know was that between the social media that all of our children have become addicted to, and through her peers and then being affirmed by her school, she was now thinking that she was a boy and she was identifying as a boy. She started, her personality completely changed. And we visited relatives in a remote area of Texas where they don't have good internet. And so when she got off of the social media and she was away from her friends and she was away from school, I noticed she went back to the, sweet, bubbly, teenager that she had been before. And that was very telling for me because I was just thinking that her personality change was due to her growing up and going through puberty. And I thought, wow, this is what teenagers are like now. But when we pulled her out of that and she was in this remote area where she didn't have these external influences, she went back to her authentic self. And that was just shocking for me. So when I took her back to school and she went and reverted back to the behavior that she had been exhibiting before, that was when I realized it's the school. It's the school.
Now was
And I didn't want to take her back. I didn't want to take her back after Thanksgiving. And by Christmas, I decided to leave Las Vegas and move to Houston.
was now when you say it was the school, was it all the faculty staff? Was it students influencing? What do you think the biggest part of that was? Because I read a lot about this, and there's a little bit of combination of both. Was that your experience?
Yes, of course. There is, it's the trifecta, right? So the social media addiction, along with peer pressure, and it being affirmed by the educators, all three of those things together really do make a huge, huge impact and can completely change the personality of your children.
Mhm.
But when I took her out of that school and brought her to Houston, and I created a program for her. I created a program for her to help her desist from this cult, because that's what it is. It's a cult.
Mhm.
Gender identity is a cult. And so when I realized what was going on and how and all of the things that were affecting her, I came up with a plan, and I executed that plan, and now she is fully embodied and no longer believes that she's a boy.
Okay, so I want to talk about the plan, but before we do that, you mentioned SEL, social emotional learning. Do you have a description of that? How you'd like to explain it? Because not everyone knows what that is, and I just actually learned myself recently.
So social emotional learning is like a training program, that they're teaching in schools, and they use a therapist. Sometimes it's just a counselor. Sometimes they're certified. Sometimes they're not. And you basically they teach the children how to connect and how to behave in the educational setting. So at first it started out pretty as a good idea because there
Mhm.
were children who were having behavioral problems, but it has since become very destructive and very harmful from social emotional learning. We have gender affirming in the schools, and that's another issue of another problem with compelled speech, asking for pronouns and asking people to freely identify, um, all of these different things. There have been other issues, comprehensive sexual education, that sort of thing
Mhm.
is all part of the SEL like umbrella, transformative SEL. Those are all the ways that they've been able to sexualize children in school, where that would not have been any that wouldn't have been in the discussion at all. So between critical race theory and SEL, it's like this vortex of where everything is circular thinking.
Mhm.
So the oppression privilege hierarchy um, creates this empathy that is convoluted, and then the SEL reaffirms that empathy by making all of the children believe that somehow we're all sick and we're all affected by some sort of issue, problem, and that we have to all be supportive to the degree that we don't even exercise safeguarding anymore.
Mhm.
We're not exercising discernment. We're not exercising the our bodies, and understanding that our bodies, there are finite realities to biology. We're not doing that because the SEL program is taught children, and there's restorative justice in that as well, which we all know has become a real nightmare
Mhm.
in education. Children are allowed to run amok without any structure, because it's somehow inherent in their DNA that they're little hoodlums. That is ridiculous,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, and what I've seen, the original concept of social emotional learning has been completely corrupted. In fact, in the links today, I supply links to a bunch of stuff that I linked to here. I have a video by who is it? James Lindsay, talking about the social emotional learning bait and switch,
Right,
where now they're using that. It's almost as though you're using critical theory, and it's not just critical race theory, critical theory in general, which is a kind of a Marxist theory of how there are oppressed people and there are oppressed and there are oppressors, and you are either one of those categories. That it's all based on the things that they were asking your son. What's your rate of privileges? You got to you check all these boxes, and then they tell you whether or not you're in the privileged group or if you're in the oppressed group.
right,
And what they've done is taken this concept of social emotional learning, which was a new concept. I can't even remember who started it, but rather than going by that model, they're saying, no, this model it's a great model, except we need to add in, critical race theory, um, trans activist theory, all the stuff that we can do, doing what you just said it, all these intersectional
right. The
categories.
intersectionality. Hmm.
And we're gonna have everyone come out here saying the same thing. It's an indoctrination, which is what you are fighting. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty crazy. So
it's
now
insane.
let's go into the you talked about the program that you kind of created for your daughter, and how did you overcome that, besides getting her out of that situation? Because um one of the things that I've been noticing in some of the reading I'm doing is that peers are are as bad as the indoctrinating teachers on this, because they start reading Tumblr and they think they know everything. Tell me how you got your daughter onto a track where she gets to discover herself instead of somebody else telling her that she's something.
Right. Well, in the process that I created, there were several phases, and within those phases there's steps. So in the first phase, it was basically taking her out of that situation. And that meant taking her off of social media, taking her away from Las Vegas, away from the school, away from you know the friends that she had made, and and putting her in a safe place, where she could discover for herself what she who she really is supposed to be. We used to call that coming of age, right?
Yeah, which,
Uh,
right.
that's
They're
what we
not
used
allowed
to
to do
call
that
that.
anymore. If you were
No,
coming of age, they're going to try to. Some counselor at a school is going to put your kid on puberty blockers before they even tell you. Anyway, I'm sorry.
right. Yes. So that's what we used to call it. And, discovery, self-discovery, it doesn't leave any room for that. So you can't even really truly know who and what you are. And we've learned that from the detransitioners. You can't truly know who you are if you don't have well, mainly self-discovery and deciding for yourself who you are. Excuse me. So I had to create an environment so that she could discover who she is on her own and with her own mind. And so I had to take her out of the lie. And it might not have been what any therapist would tell you to do, but I had to call her bluff on a lot of these things. I spent a lot of time getting her to a place where I could understand exactly what she was thinking and feeling. I did a lot of listening. And once I gathered enough information, I had to deprogram her. And that started with calling her bluff. She decided that she had all of these mental illnesses that, that TikTok told her that she should have.
Mm.
And she was claiming that she was having night terrors and hearing voices and all of this body dysmorphia, and I knew that that was not true. I knew that those things weren't true, first of all, because we sleep in the same room, you know uh and she snores.
Okay.
So I know that she doesn't have night terrors. She sleeps 12 hours a night most of the time. She's a teenager. She goes to bed relatively early, and she doesn't exactly wake up early either. So I knew that she didn't have night terrors. And so I was like, okay, how can I fix this? How can I make her understand that I know she's not telling the truth about this stuff? And so I called her bluff. I told her, I said, all right, we're going to put you in a mental institution because I don't have the ability to handle all of your mental illness, and clearly you are nuts. So I'm going to put you in this mental institution. And since we don't have any money, you're going to go to the state-run hospital.
Oh, Lord.
And you're going to go to the state-run hospital. I'm going to tell you what that's like. As soon as you get there, they're going to put you in a paper gown, and give you some paper shoes, and give you a pair of drawers made out of fishnets. And when you're on your cycle, they're going to give you a maxi pad that looks like a sponge you wash the car with. And that's how you're going to live through your life. You're going to have a roommate, and she's going to have real night terrors. And so in the middle of the night, she's going to wake up and go, ah! Scare the shit out of you every single night, all night, because she's reacting to what's called internal stimuli. So that's what's going to happen. Then when you want to go watch TV, you're going to go in a room with 40 other women, and they're all going to be watching a box TV that is wrapped up in a cage, because they ain't got no flat screens in there. It's a tube TV. And they're going to put it on some nature stuff, and you ain't going to like it. And when you're feeling artistic, they'll give you a big old can, and it's full of broken crayons in a paper sack, and let you color on that. And it ain't gonna be no good crayons neither. It's not gonna be a fresh box of Crayolas. You gonna get somebody been and chewed them shits, and you gonna have some nubs. That's what you gonna get to crayon. That's what you're gonna get to color with. And the people that are in there, they're not professionals. They're just orderlies. They're there to make sure you don't hurt yourself. They got a GED. It ain't gonna be nobody. And on Sundays, they're gonna let me visit you. I'll come and visit you. I'll bring you some cookies. I'll stay there for the whole hour. And as soon as I leave, I'm going to the Bahamas because I'm going to need to grieve for you in someplace better. I'm going to need to go and fix my spirit in someplace warm and tropical. And then on Sunday, I'll fly back on Sundays to make sure I bring you them cookies. I'm going to bring you them cookies every Sunday. But after that, I'm gonna need to go and be someplace better because you're in the loony bin with your people, you know. So if you feel like you still have night terrors and you're still hearing voices, we can do that. I can make that happen. But if you want to live like a normal person and be a part of society, then we can go work that out in the gym, or we can do some talk therapy or something like that. I mean, which
you were your own episode of Scared Straight.
Yeah.
Because Big Mabel gonna come take those cookies I bring you anyway.
Look, okay, as soon as they shut that door on you, somebody gonna come get them cookies. Big Bertha gonna come get them cookies. You ain't gonna have them cookies no more.
So with these kids, with your daughter, because one of the things that I see when I read and see examples of this is that there is now in these schools a reward for being oppressed.
Okay? Yes.
And so, with a lot of these people, or just a reward for being special. So, and I see this in Hollywood with parents who all of a sudden are talking about parading their trans kids out there, and you're so special because you are doing this wonderful thing for your child, and then the kids themselves, there's a reward. How much did you see of that when you were dealing with it back in Las Vegas, or did you not necessarily? You said, I see this, get the fuck out.
That's the kind of, once I got to a point where I was seeing this pattern of euphoria, just unrealistic euphoria. And, this kind of excitement around it all. That was when I recognized that this was it was like gamblers' addictions, and how excited everybody was, and how it came over through adults and praising children for being brave and stunning and brave to come out. And that's completely and totally, that's indoctrination,
Well, and you're seeing that
was the stuff that I was seeing all over the place, and not just in the school.
I'm sorry. And you know what? You see that in those TikTok videos.
Yes.
All these TikTok videos these kids are seeing, and you see the teachers out there doing it, but you also see it in the creepy ones like that. What's Jeffrey? What's his face?
Marsh.
Jeffrey Marsh. He's like, your parents just will never understand, and you need to separate yourself from them because I am here for you. And all that shit. I'm like, that's that validation, and that's the thing. It's they are doing this to these kids just often to get validation for themselves.
And that's what I say. I'm like, you know what? My kid is not your emotional support animal. Get over yourself. You're not, and for the parents too. Your kid is not your emotional support animal. You're not special. Your kid's not special. Go teach them how to do some reading and writing and some math, so they can grow up and make that $60,000-$70,000 a year as a plumber. You know what I'm saying? That's how you make them successful in life. Don't strip them of everything, put a skirt on them, and tell them to go be a TikTok star. That's how you end up with a psychopath as a child, as an adult. They're teaching our children to be, sex addicted misanthropes. That is not a viable and sustainable way to live out your life. And the detransitioners are proving that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I'm going to move on because I want to make sure we talk about what you have upcoming. But before I do that, let me we're going to do a commercial break here because a bunch of my sponsors have been supporting the show and I want to acknowledge them real quick. And because it's Funky Friday, I have to have some appropriate music. So let me see if I can get some, I need something old schoolish though. I don't even know. Let's try this. Let's try this. Okay, real quick. Thank you to our sponsors today so far. Starting out with Jimmy Das Hotep. Thank you for dropping the most patriotic donation ever into the tip jar today. Who says, let's go. Stopping indoctrination of kids starts at home. And it is our job as parents. Our values should shape theirs. That is absolutely the truth there, Jimmy Das Hotep. Thank you very much. Also, Smart Killer. I have a series of serial killers who seem to donate to the show. I can't figure it out. But anyway, who says, shop smart, shop S-Smart. I don't know what that means, but thank you for the big bullet in the tip jar. Also, FTG Farms, one of the most common sponsors, our longtime sponsor, and where the Morning Night Live gets all of its fucks, but sometimes our fuck farm is barren, so we go to the farmer's market and get our stuff from FTG Farms, Inc., who says, inspired by Gabrielle Clark, we bring you FTG Rebellion. They hold the power wrong. It takes a single spark to ignite an inferno. It takes just one to start the uprising. Let your fucks be that spark. Fear not the tyrant. Break them with FTG Rebellion. Thank you, FTG Farms. And finally, Select a Boy says, hey, Gabs, if you did take your daughter to the state-run mental institution, would they ask her, do you want to walk in alone? Or should we drag you in, kicking and screaming? There you go. Thank you, Select a Boy. So, Gabs, did you warn her about the kicking and screaming part? That's what I'm wondering.
You know what? My daughter values her freedom above everything else. She doesn't like to be parented. And so that wouldn't have even happened because she knew right away that she did not want her freedom hampered in any way. She already doesn't like being a teenager. She certainly wasn't going to like being incarcerated as one.
Sure. Now, and she's doing fine now. She's still in school, right? She's
Yes, but I think we're going to homeschool this year.
Are you?
Yeah, because you know what?
Can't get away with that mess.
You can't. Yeah.
Mess.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere, and not, it's not just that. Like I do believe that she could handle going to school. It's just that the schools that we're zoned to are just so terrible and failing. And this is why so many, Black people are the highest group. They have the highest percentage of people in homeschool for each group, for an individual group.
Really?
So yes, because they've been seeing this for decades. They've been seeing these schools, and this is from parents, Black families who are around our age, when growing up, knew that their schools were terrible. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they've gotten worse has made a lot of Black families decide, we ain't even trying to do this. We want our kids to grow up and be something. So they're homeschooling. They don't have any other choice. They can't, a lot of these parents can't afford private school. And they, the charters are just as bad. So, they're opting to homeschool.
All right, let's talk about what you have coming up, because I want to make sure we have time for people to ask questions. If you have, by the way, folks, if you have questions, hold on to them, and when I ask, then you can drop them in the chat, and I'll try to just scroll through and get any questions asked, and then I have some questions for Gabs at the end. But I want to talk about an event that you have coming up called, here, let me put it on the screen here. Let me fix this real quick. Hang on a second before I do that. Make sure I have it on here right. There we go. This event coming up called Overcoming the Effects of the Gender Cult, Resistance from ROGD. Now, first explain, I'm pretty sure everyone can understand the words on the screen, but what is ROGD for the audience?
Rapid onset gender dysphoria. So when children just all of a sudden think that they're trans, that's rapid onset gender dysphoria. They all of a sudden think that they're in the wrong body, and they become disembodied. And so we encourage our children to desist from that. That is being socially transitioned before medicalization. So if you have a child that is identifying as trans, but you're not going to put them on puberty blockers, and you're not going to do any kind of medicalization, you're not going to affirm, you can come to my webinar, and I will tell you exactly the steps and how I executed them, so that you can help your children to desist as well.
But wait a minute. I thought that we were supposed to have gender affirming care. What is wrong with the concept of affirming what they feel they really are?
Well, one of my sons thought he was Spider-Man. And I thought it a bad idea to let him go and swing from spider webs from one building to another. I thought that is an irresponsible thing to do as a parent. So I did not affirm that. I let him wear his little costume, and at the end of the day, I said, okay, you're not Spider-Man, son. You're a guy. You know, the laws of physics and gravity still apply to you. So let's not jump off the building. Is responsible parenting. And gender affirming care is a fallacy. It's a lie. It falls under what I call parallel language messaging. I talk about this all the time. All of these things that they've decided to change or alter or skew, and James Lindsay also talks about this. Of course, James Lindsay is a genius. I am not. And, lots of parents are not. So I came up with parallel language messaging to explain and describe and give instances of how they use that to manipulate the culture and manipulate society into this social engineering.
So this event that you have coming up, it says it's a 2-part series with activist Gabrielle Clark for parents who have children who have been socially transitioned in schools. So, and it's in 2 parts. Tell us about the 2 different parts of this, even though they're on the screen here. I'm gonna have you just tell me a little bit about it without doing your whole seminar here.
Right. So in the first part, there's the preparation for deprogramming. So all of the things that I describe, all of the things that my daughter was going through, and how I was able to prepare her for the hard work of deprogramming, because you do have to pave the way before you start deprogramming, because the groomers will tell the children, your parents aren't going to understand you, they don't love you, they don't know you, they won't let you be your authentic self. And so you have to dispel that lie with preparation. You have to dispel that the love bombing and the manipulation and the lies of the cult. You have to prepare for that. And then the second part is the execution. So how I deprogrammed my daughter, the things that I did to deprogram her, the steps that we took to make her understand reality. And I say affirm reality. That's what, instead of gender affirming care, we affirm reality.
And a lot of that is I've read more about this than most people, I guess. That a lot of that is first just letting them know that, you know, we love you the way you are. We love you regardless of how we understand your feelings. Everyone goes through this. There's, most people's brains don't even work until they're 25. And there's, but there's a constant reaffirmation of just what they are now,
Yeah.
and because they think that there's something wrong with them. And it's like, well, I love you the way you are, or we can start cutting pieces off you so someone else can love you the way they think you are. And
Right.
and which are you? It's some of the stuff is so insidious, it drives me insane.
It is. It's diabolical. I mean, it's diabolical the way that they have turned all of our children into potential cash cows by, telling them that they're disembodied will make them be lifelong medical and psych patients.
And really, for all practicality, at first glance, not even actually doing any kind of therapy, not even actually finding out what that kid, a kid is. It's just like, oh, well, you like something different that other kids like, you must be trans.
Yes.
Or you must be non-binary, which is a stupid phrase anyway.
That's how it starts, with non-binary. And I should have known when my daughter was identifying as non-binary that this was happening, because I was already an activist and I had already seen all of this. But what we didn't know then was that because of gender affirming care, what the course of action had been prior to this was watchful waiting. And a lot of parents who have children who have become medicalized later in life, like after, during college and on, those parents were doing watchful waiting, but somewhere along the way, watchful waiting turned into gender affirming care, and now watchful waiting does not work. And that's because this is not a coming out story. It's an indoctrination. It's a capture, and you can recapture them.
Yeah, I'm starting to see stories, and the word desist is the word that I'm hearing more often than not, rather than deprogram or rather than conversion, because conversion is a dirty word in LGBTQ community, but desist is in like cease and desist.
Right.
This nonsense is where
Right.
but you can't tell your kids that's nonsense. You just got to tell them how much you love them the way they are, and can again, like you said, reaffirm reality.
Reality.
Okay, so now I have a few little things that I pulled up here, and I'm going to have you comment, because you mentioned Title IX earlier, and so I happened to be, and I did this. I know I was going to be prepared for this, but I was. And so there's a few tweets here from different people. Someone named Candace Jackson on Title IX. One of the most serious parts of Biden's anti-woman Title IX proposal is how the Education Department declares that it is now illegal to quote, cause more than de minimis harm based on gender identity, end quote, and that, quote, refusing to treat someone consistently with their gender identity causes that kind of harm. So they're pushing gender identity into the Title IX spectrum. That's how the Education Department leads from, I want you to pretend I'm a girl, to you violated Title IX and committed illegal sex discrimination by not pretending I'm a girl. Never before has discrimination been defined as anything that hurts my feelings. I'm hearing some hero in the background. This is gender exceptionalism.
Yes. I mean, okay, so Title IX, those are protections based based on sex.
Sex.
You know, that was one of the wonderful things that Ruth Bader Ginsburg did do for us. You
Mhm.
know, is to make it illegal to discriminate based on sex. And now somehow the word gender has come into play, and we're supposed to affirm people's self-identified genders. No, you this is precisely why the law was created in the first place, was to give sex-based rights to women particularly, and to make it so that people couldn't discriminate against you based on your sex. This was the action that made it legal for women to be able to get credit cards or to buy a house without having their father co-sign. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that was protecting. And now women are having to fight to keep men out of their bathrooms. I mean, this is insane. And Candace Jackson, when I talked to Candace, we talked a lot about how to move forward with lawfare, because Candace is a lawyer.
Mhm.
And she and I have discussed this about how to move forward with lawfare, because now they're changing the rules and using parallel language messaging to skew the rules and skew our laws and procedures. And that, in my opinion, is where I think that more conservatives need to recognize that this is no longer a personal responsibility, and it is now becoming a social issue and a legal issue that we all need to get activated to fight against.
Mhm. Also, the other thing too, there's an article in, I think is this New Discourses? Is that something James Lindsay put out?
Yes, New Discourses is James Lindsay's podcast
Okay.
and his website. Mhm.
Yeah, I was listening to one of his podcasts this morning, but a couple good articles here that we don't have to get too deep into. But one, you were talking about, about getting your child to desist. And so there's an article here that I'll put in the links after the show. Nevertheless, he desisted, and just what you were just saying. One of the first, it says simple recipe. Here is the detailed directions on helping your kid do that. Number one, I'll just go through number one. Your kid needs tons of parent love, tons, like every 20 minutes. Get in there and check on him, praise his efforts on his homework, tell loving stories about his past at dinner, have him hear you talk proudly to other people on the phone, bring him treats and at a pickup, go on special outings and buy silly things, describe his positive characteristics. Again, that's affirming the reality. And saying things, I've always admired how thoughtful you've been. You're such a generous person. What do you think of this idea? You've always been good at evaluating things. Tell him he looks handsome and strong. Tell her she looks beautiful and strong. Basically, you're telling your kids, you are wonderful right now. Because
The way you are,
that's
affirming their reality. Yes.
yeah.
And
So
that's part, I mean, like, I hadn't seen this one, but that's part of this. The steps is I put challenges in front of my daughter that would show her, you fully embody in your femininity. You can be all kinds of things. That does not make you this other thing. Because when she installed my range and when she installed my dishwasher at 14 years old, that doesn't make you a boy. That makes you a badass girl.
straight up. Now, here's a question I have for you, and I have a couple questions. Chat, and if you have questions for Gabrielle, put them in the chat now, and I'll try to find them. Just make sure you put like 3 question marks so I can see something unusual in the chat. One that I have though is how do you deal with those people, especially in this latter part. I mean, the CRT stuff, being a black woman, you can have some leeway with people with that. But the trans one is one where the TRAs, the trans rights activists, when I say TRA, that's what I'm saying. How do you deal with the hate you get from that? The ones who want to call you you're an anti-trans bigot. Or and shit like that, How do you deal with those people who are so adamantly and sometimes violently against what you're doing?
Well, you know what? I'm bi. Okay. I have a gay son, and I was in a relationship with a cross-dresser for years. We used to go and get manis and petties together with my daughter when she was a little girl on Saturdays. So there's no phobia here. Okay. There's no transphobia. There's none of that. But lying to my kid and telling them that they're a boy when they're really a girl, and I know this. Even my gay son was like, "But you're not. You're not a boy, though. I mean, you've never been. That's not that's not real." And even he has made it clear that his position on this, as have lots of people in the LGBT community, even trans people who genuinely do have dysphoria or body dysmorphia, whatever you want to call it. They have said, wait a minute, this is not some fun, wonderful thing. It's a torturous thing, and it's not something that we should be pushing on children. But to the trans rights activists, that sort of thing, dude, you can't come up to me with your male pattern baldness.
Wait. Did you just misgender that TRA?
Hey, look. Hey, man, you come up to me with your male pattern baldness and hair growing out of your nose with a little red miniskirt on and your knobby knees talking about, I'm non-binary. Get out of my face with that nonsense. You're a dude. It's called affirming reality. That is the reality. And I don't have to accept your kink. Okay. I don't have to accept your fetish, because that's what this is. You can be whoever you want to be, and I will respect you as a human being. But I am not going to participate in your kink because you are forcing me to. No. I'm gonna address you as you are, and you can get glad in the same draws you got mad in, sir. That's how I do.
I had a feeling after I heard the Yackity Smackity line that would probably be the answer, because that's definitely some Yackity Smackity. And then there's this one, and a lot of the people who are on the feminist side of this argument too are worried about the erasure of women. And so what's interesting is, and again, there's that separation between the conservatives and the radical feminists who are saying the same things.
Right.
Where I think there'd be a benefit to say, hey, you know what? This is somewhat, and the reason I asked that, because this one I'll show you on the screen here in a second, as soon as I get it on my screen. So this is a website called womenshistory.org. Okay. And it's a little bit hard to see because it's small, but on their so they're doing a bunch of biographies of women, right? And they have a list of biographies that they're going to do. And when you open it up, this is what you get. The first three women biographies are three, let's just say, adult human males. The first three on this website, including the associate health director of health, the whatever national, whatever this general admiral, what's her face? I'm sorry, because I know I got to be careful on YouTube. Is this an example of the erasure of women?
Yes. Yes, that should have Condoleezza Rice, Angela Bassett, and you know what I mean? and some of the other. I've been
No,
working with the
truly.
rad femmes. I've been working with, and let me tell you, I've never been a feminist.
Mhm.
I'm trad all the, you know what I mean? Like, I've never been a feminist,
Right.
but I have been working, and as a matter of fact, Amy Souza, Jennifer Thomas, and I have co-founded Rev Fox, and we'll be launching that soon.
Okay.
So those are radical feminists, and then we don't agree on a lot of things, but
Right.
we agree on this.
Well, I know
I
in
don't
our
know.
spaces when we talk about this sometimes. I mean, it's clear that there's a divergent on some issues, but they're not that important when we're talking about this,
Right,
and this is one that I see as one of the more dangerous trends that we have going in our society right now, because you're
right,
going to have a mental health crisis among kids that they are not going to believe sometime down the road, especially all these kids that they were going to affirm their gender. They're going to, like in Washington state, where they can go and at 13, they don't have to tell their parents that they went to the school counselor and they put them on puberty blockers.
and they're doing it on your dime too, because it's being done through Medicaid and through
I
social programs at
Oh,
school.
or through their parents' health insurance. They don't have to.
And
They do not
yes,
have to tell their parents' health insurance that all of a sudden and then when they get the bill, the summary of what was some care, they will redact the fact that they're putting them on Lupron or some shit like that.
right.
And so, and how many things do you trust a 13-year-old to make a permanent decision? Would you allow a 13-year-old to make your investment decisions?
We don't even allow them to get tattoos. We don't even allow them to drink.
You can't give them
But you're gonna let them do this.
you can't give them an aspirin, but you
Right.
can give them puberty blocker that makes them sterile and softens their bones. Anyway, all right, I want to get to, I was about to go off, but I'm not gonna. I want to get to some of the questions in the chat. And then I'm gonna do my lightning round, and we're gonna call it a day because we're almost run out of time here. So, and okay, Bob J. Boblin, aka Tyre Alexander, but this is the CEO of and president of FTG Farms. So, one of our great sponsors, and this is a question that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. And it's a question that I've been dealing with for 6-7 years now. Not on this show, but on another show that a friend of mine runs. Is cereal soup? Obviously, this has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Is cereal soup?
I'm sorry?
Is cereal soup?
Is cereal soup?
Yeah, this is one of those questions I always get.
Okay. So no, cereal is not soup.
Thank you. You got it right. Please do not call cereal soup. Anyway.
Cereal is not soup. Soup has a base. Soup has a base of a roux or a cream or something of that nature. So cereal is not a soup. I also cook too.
Okay, there
But,
we go.
yeah, cereal is not a soup.
I'm not. Where are the? Okay, I haven't scrolled down. Okay, here we go. Well, this is Richos from Down Under. His question is, I don't think this is a question. Goddamn USA, how did you allow this to happen to the mightiest military the world has ever known?
I asked Buzz Patterson that. I asked him that myself. And he said that because the commander-in-chief makes the decisions for the military, that's the boss. So whatever your boss tells you have to do, that's what you have to do. And so since our commander-in-chief is senile and woke, we're getting senile and woke nonsense.
Yes, I have a new name for him, and I forgot what it was. It's the dimensional one is what I call it.
Right.
So here's another one. Peter, this is for Gab. Gab, how would you best encourage other parents into joining the fight who may have second thoughts because of the backlash?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that question, because honestly, if there are parents out there who are so worried about the backlash that they just don't want to deal with that, for heaven's sakes, financially support those of us who are fighting. Because one of the problems in this space is that they have so much money to do this to us. They're getting funded from all these different PACs and all of these different lobbyists, and they have big pharma behind them, because the pharmaceutical companies want our children to be on this stuff for their entire lives. Lesbians are some of the people who basically go through the majority of their lives not needing a lot of medical attention. They don't have babies. They don't need birth control. There's a lot of things that lesbians don't have to do. And because this affects girls primarily, who would grow up to later become lesbians, they have now tapped a resource that they didn't have before. So there's all kinds of insidious stuff going on, and it is backed with so much money. If you are one of those people who is too afraid to activate, then be a silent partner. And for heaven's sakes, you can support me at GiveSendGo/support the Clarks. There's other organizations. There are other people. Just make sure you're doing your homework and you know who you're giving to. Because some of these people are entertainers and some of these people are activists, and you need to know the difference. The people who are on the ground doing the real work, Amy Souza, Jennifer Thomas, Billboard Chris, those kinds of people, me, Carlin Borisenko, those kinds of people who are actually doing things, to James Lindsay. Those are the people that need the financial support to keep fighting, because we've had so many great fighters have to quit because the economic burden is just, it's overwhelming. And when you're in it, you can't part-time it. So you can't have a regular job and then do this part-time. It's all encompassing. I do this full time, and that is my wall. You see that? Like, I'm an activist full time. So every single thing that I do and all of the money that I get in donations goes back into, I'm going to Philly. That's funded by y'all. I'm going to Speaker's Corner to have a protest in Philadelphia at the what is it called, the Rocky statue. So in order to do that, it costs money. It costs money to do all of this traveling and speaking to people. It costs money to go into some of these events so that I can get some FaceTime with a politician. It takes money to do that stuff. And a lot of people don't realize how much money it really takes. It takes a lot. And so if you are one of those people who wants to help, then by all means, please, please, please throw some money at this situation. This is one of those instances where throwing some money at the situation is still really helpful.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I too want to remind anyone who's a parent that your kids are your kids. They don't belong to the government.
That's right.
They don't belong to the school board. They don't belong to their teachers. They don't belong to their friends. They don't belong to Jeffrey Marsh's dumbass. They don't belong to any of these TikTokers. They're your kids, and you have a right. And this whole parental rights movement, which you see in some of these places that are really bad, like London County, Virginia, and all, especially some of those are Virginia school districts. They're nuts. But the parents are starting to take the power back by either running for the school boards, going and talking, getting, filing the lawsuit that you filed, but they're your kids and you have a right,
A duty.
and a duty to know what they're being taught and to demand that they're taught the things you want to. Man, the schools are there to teach you to read, write, and how to think, and do math and whatever things that you'll need in life. Now, you think, oh, I didn't need to know fractions when I didn't need to know fractions. What am I ever using fractions for? Well, if you cook, then you're using fractions.
Yeah.
If you are, if you're putting a sprinkler out to water your lawn, you're doing geometry. You're everything you do, you learn in school, and how to think, not what to think. They're not allowed to teach your kids what to think. They can teach them how to think and how to read and how to figure it out on their own. And that's how you have successful kids in life. All right.
Yeah.
Let me, let's see, I'm skipped over one here. Let's see. What does a woman know? That's a joke. How do you go about, I don't think he meant promoting ROGD to the masses. How do you go about helping people understand ROGD?
There's organizations that you can refer them to. So you can just put in ROGD and it will show you organizations that are friendly to our Affirm Reality push. So there's GETA, GETA, and I cannot for the life of me ever remember what that one is. But there's PIT, parents with an inconvenient truth about trans. There's Partners for Ethical Care. There's the Trans Trender. There's Rev Fox is going to be launching very soon, and we have a really great staff. We have some great people that are working for us and creating our website and creating all of the tools that you'll need. There's all kinds of organizations and people who are out there fighting this. I just did a roundtable with Miriam Grossman and some of the other detransitioners a few weeks ago with the Surgeon General of Florida. Miriam Grossman was the doctor from What is a Woman? So, and I decided to do this webinar because a few days ago, Miriam Grossman was begging for help on Twitter because she has so many emails that she can't keep up with them. A lot of this stuff is stuff that parents can do on their own in their own homes with their own children. So, when you're talking about rapid onset gender dysphoria, there are organizations and there are places that you can go to find them. And if you contact me on Twitter, or if you go to my link tree and contact me there, I will find sources. I help parents find sources all the time. And you just have to do the research, really. It took me a really long time to get to this place, but because of that, it won't take you that long. And please, by all means, come to the webinar and promote the webinar so that people, even if they don't have a child affected by it, they can still benefit from seeing this, because at some point you're going to address it in your daily life, in your everyday life, either with the people in your congregation or any of the organizations that you're involved in. This is going to be something that's going to come up, your social clubs and things like that. So yeah, you can find information if you really want it. You can find me on Truth Social, on Getter, and Twitter at Gabs Clark 5, and my link tree is linktree/Gabs Clark 5. So you can find me. I'm all over the place. I'm not hard to find.
And I I'm going to be putting your link tree and your Twitter. I put Twitter in the chat. I have her link tree sitting in the, well, it'll be in the tabs in the link down below in the one tab link that I update at the end of the show. And also her Give Send Go is on there also. This one, full disclosure, this is my daughter who is the mother of my grandchild who said,
I
Gabs,
think she's following me on Twitter.
she probably is. She says, I've tried to find communities for this type of discussion and find it heavily suppressed in social media, internet searches. Are there better places to find these communities? Let me answer that how I found these people. Going into a Twitter space. Somehow I end up in a Twitter space with a bunch of people talking about this. I've followed a bunch of people in there that have talked and I've talked with, but there are other places that people can look.
You know what, Amy Souza, she has a Twitter space on Tuesdays. It's called Tuesday Talks. So if you're on Twitter and you have the app, you can see, or you're online on your computer, I think, you can look into the Twitter spaces and listen to the discussion. I'm in there frequently. You can follow people like Kara, I think her name is Davis, and Kelly J on YouTube. There's all kinds of ways to find these communities. The LGB Alliance, all of Gen Spec is a big one. They're based out of the UK. There's all kinds of ways to find these communities. And I will say on Facebook, they have lots of private communities. So if you get into some of these other ones, subscribe to Pitt's Substack, which I'm going to start my Substack soon. I keep procrastinating because I hate writing, but those are some of the areas where you can find this stuff. If you get with partners, if you get with Partners for Ethical Care, those places, you will be able to get connected to the people who can help you find a community.
Mm-hmm. And then let's see, I got another one here. This is actually kind of a good question, and I'm not sure how to answer this. Not to be a jerk, but what safeguards are in place to keep this movement from being corrupted by non-mission based ideas like Occupy was?
You know what? That is exactly what I'm having to struggle with now. So part of this gender cult is to eliminate safeguards. And this is why affirming care is so detrimental. So I am a firm believer in protecting my movement from being co-opted. So the way that I try to filter out, if you're not helping, then you're trying to co-opt. Like that is essentially how I handle this. I do not work with the woke. So if there is a instance.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And so if there's an instance of any kind of descent into well, what if we, or maybe we could? No, we affirm in reality. I do not work with the woke.
Okay. All right. Now, thank you, audience, for some of those great questions. Now we're going to go to a lightning round. Gabs, I'm sorry, but this has nothing to do with what we've been talking about, but it's just so people can get a sense of who Gabs is. Now there is one question I absolutely have to change there because I'll leave that question. Okay, are you ready? Yes. This is lightning round. There are no right or wrong answers, although you might get indication of a right or wrong answer, but I'm not going to say that it's a right or wrong answer. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
simple. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just and from now on, I'm gonna do this with every guest. We're gonna have a list of lightning round questions, and there are two usually I only do 10, but there are 2 bonus questions, and one of them is because you're in Texas. So here we go. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
All right. Texting or talking?
Talking.
Favorite day of the week?
Friday, because that's karaoke.
Okay. Favorite city in the US besides the one you live in?
Favorite city?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yes, because you travel a lot.
I do travel a lot. I would say Vegas is probably my favorite city.
Okay, that's a good one. I enjoy Vegas too. Might have chosen San Diego, but Vegas is a good one. That's a good answer. Okay, let's go with a nickname your parents used to call you.
Gab, they just call me Gab.
Okay, there you go. Last song you downloaded or listened to?
The last song I listened to, I
Well,
was listening to
I would say downloaded.
downloaded.
Do you download music?
I've never downloaded
Okay,
a
so
song.
okay.
I
Well,
don't
I'll allow you. I'll allow you to listen to because I don't download
Well,
music either.
you know what? I think you know what I have downloaded like a lot of Erica Badu. I think that was I
All
did
right, all right.
download a lot of Erica Badu.
That's a good answer. She's
Yeah.
very talented. Now, would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Oh, talk to animals.
That would be very fascinating, wouldn't it now?
Yeah.
What's your favorite holiday?
Halloween.
Okay, that's a good one. How long does it take you to get ready?
For what? For which?
Wrong answer.
um, 2 hours.
Oh, you just get it for I would be waiting for you forever. Okay. That's on a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a driver are you?
Oh, I'm like Mario Andretti. I'm doing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank. Taylor Swift is
Tragic.
Oh, wait, no, what? Wrong button. I hit the wrong one. That she is tragic. Okay, what age do you want to retire? Okay. Okay. Invisibility or super strength?
Super strength.
All right. And the 10th question, before I get to the bonus questions, is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
No.
Okay. But you know the thing is, like, because we've been hanging out with vegan friend of ours a lot lately, or not a lot, but here and there. And I get confused. Why do vegans always want to make their food look like meat? I've never understood that. I mean, so, because we bought these vegan burgers. I'm like, why do you want a vegan burger? You're a vegan. You don't eat meat. The burger is meat. Anyway, all right. Now let's go to the bonus questions, and these are very important because these will determine whether or not we have. Whether or not we will nullify the rest of your answers. So here we go. Because you are from Texas, I have to ask this question. Whiskey or tequila?
I
include
whiskey.
Yes. And finally, this one is the most crucial one of the day. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Oh, you made it. Yes. You win the prize. Thank you, Gabrielle. All right. Now, I just want to, Gabrielle, I want to thank you for being here today. There are no bonus prizes for being here, but I do appreciate all the people who come in and ask questions. I appreciate you so much. I follow you. I've been following you on Twitter ever since I did that first time I saw you in a Twitter space. And, you're an inspiration to people. And I hope that more parents learn to take your lead as far as just not tolerating the nonsense, and that's something you should be very proud of. And I appreciate the fact that you're continuing to teach others how to do this. So thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, I didn't realize I still had that on there. Yes, right here. You can follow Gabs on Twitter at Gabs Clark. Also at the end of the show, as I update the link in the description down below, her Twitter will be linked. Also Amy Souza's Twitter, Gabs. What is this called? Your link tree, which I think you just click, that shows all the different things that you can find her, and her Give Send Go will be in the description, as well as every article and everything that, even some of the stuff that I didn't show on the screen. There's some good stuff in the information here. You'll find that in the description below. I will update during the outro. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again, Gabs, for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is great. This is fantastic. Very fun. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it today. Thank you for joining me today on the Morning Night Live. I'm here Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, as you know. And if you can share the stream before, during, after the show, put a like or hit the like button. And if you want to sponsor the show, you can do that at pdognight.live or YouTube Super Chats, and a couple other options in the description down below. And if you're watching on replay, put a comment in the comment section. Tell us what you thought of the show today in the comment section. What are some of the most compelling parts of what Gab was trying to teach us today? And if you have other questions, you can put those in the description, and we'll find Gab and have her answer them another time. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. I gotta go. Thanks for those who participate in the chat. If you're lurking in the background, thanks for joining us also. But I have time limits. So my name is P-Dog Knight, and I am out of here. Bye-bye. Have a great day. What the hell's going on here? Hey, this is P-Dog Knight, and thank you for watching today on the P-Dog Knight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cash App, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm P-Dog Knight, and I'm out of here.